Hey everyone, let's characterize the trinomials. So I have a trinomial here where the value of a is greater than 1. I will go ahead and multiply my first and last term, which will give me negative 15. Since the product is a negative number, we are looking at the factors of opposite sign, because only factors of opposite sign can give you a negative product. Now those factors should add up to the middle term, which is negative 2 in this case. So remember, because the middle term is negative, the sign of the greater factor should be negative. After finding different factors, I've reached 3 and negative 5 as my final factors. So I'll go ahead and write my expression again as 3p squared plus 3p minus 5p minus 5. And then I will group them, first two groups and last two groups. From the first two groups, I can factor out 3p and it will leave me with p plus 1. And I will factor out negative 5 from the last two groups, which will give me again p plus 1 in the parentheses. So my two factors are p plus 1 and 3p minus 5. And here I have a small note for you. Imagine that p plus 1 was x. Then what you would have done, you would have factored out that x. Similarly, we have factored out p plus 1. Let's take another example. Our example here is 2n squared plus 3n minus 9. I'll follow the same process. I'll multiply my first and last term, which is again a negative term, negative 18. Let's write down all the factors of negative 18, which will add up to positive 3. So you can see here, I am writing down all the factors until I get the pair which gives me positive 3 when added up and negative 18 when multiplied. Now remember, the sign of the middle term is positive, so the chosen factors, the greater factor would also be a positive number, plus 6 and minus 3. Now once we have figured out our factors, I will go ahead and rewrite my expression into the following factors. 2n squared plus 6n minus 3n minus 9. Now you can go ahead and group them into first two terms and last two terms. The GCF of the greatest common factor of the first two terms is 2n. So I can factor out 2n, which will leave me with n plus 3. And from the last two terms, the GCF is negative 3, which will again leave me with n plus c. So you must have seen me working on a trick. I write my n plus 3 first in the last two terms and then figure out my GCF. Alright, let's take one last example. 3n squared minus 8n plus 4. So 3 times 4 is 12. And remember, since we have a positive product this time, our factors should be of the same sign. Either both would be positive or both would be negative. And what are those? It will depend on the sign of the middle term. Since the middle term is negative term, both of our factors would be negative factors. So two factors that add up to negative 8 and when multiply gives us positive 12. I'm writing down a small note for you here. You can pause the video and take notes. So let's go ahead and find the factors of 12. And I always like to start with 1 and the number itself. It may feel unnecessary to some students, but practice makes perfect. And we just got it, 2 and 6. That was fast. So positive 2 and positive 6 will not add up to give us negative 8. So we will take negative 2 and negative 6, because two negatives also multiply to give us a positive answer. And in this case, they are adding up to negative 8. So I'll go ahead and rewrite my expression. 3n squared minus 2n minus 6n or you can rearrange them, minus 6n minus 2n plus 4. Once you group them, you can see that the factors would be, let me rewrite the equation, we didn't have enough space there, 3n squared minus 6n minus 2n plus 4, and then I'll go ahead and group my terms. The first two terms, the GCF is 3n, which leaves me with n minus 2, and I use a small trick. I just write n minus 2 before, and then I find out that negative 2 was my GCF, which gives me n minus 2 and 3n minus 2 as my factors. And how do I do that? Once I figured out that n minus 2 is the common parentheses, I just see what it should be multiplied to give me negative 2n plus 4. I hope this video was helpful. Please go ahead and try the last example by yourself. I will see you later with another video.